Hello friends, welcome to this YouTube video program. Friends, today we'll discuss about one of the very important topic, that is bridging the learning gaps. Bridging the learning gaps. Today we'll discuss. First of all, we will try to understand that what is the concept of a learning gap. Then we will discuss that what are the factors that are responsible for these learning gaps. Then we have to discuss that what are the nature of the learning gaps also. Then finally we will discuss that how to bridge the identified learning gaps. Okay, so these are the certain objectives that will today we will discuss for understanding the learning gaps and how to bridge the learning gaps. So, friends, as a practitioner of education, as a researcher of education, as a teacher of education, as a teacher educator, you might have, faced certain situation that to whom you are teaching, either in the school or in any teacher education institute, you are facing to the students, and you must have experienced that the students to whom you are facing, to whom you are dealing every day, so far as their abilities are concerned, so far as their other, you can say, the nature of the students and other parameters are concerned, that you cannot say that the group is a homogeneous group. Okay, so every classroom, we can say that every classroom is a heterogeneous classroom, because the students to whom you are dealing, they are differ and they are different in many aspects. So first we will try to understand the nature of a class. Then we will come to discuss the learning gaps and how to bridge the learning gaps. As I have already said that all classrooms or the students to whom you are teaching in a class, they are heterogeneous in nature. Okay, it seems that they are homogeneous, but actually they are not homogeneous. You see, let you are studying to class 10 students or class 9 students, you can say that they are in the same age group. So if it is 10th, 9th class, then you can say they might be in the 14th age group, or if they are in the 10th class, then you can say that they might be in the 15th age group. So far as the age group is concerned, then you can say that they are homogeneous in nature. But in other aspects, if I will say the other examples, if you are teaching to a co-education school, co-education system, then you will find the boys and girls are there in your class. So they are also heterogeneous in nature so far as gender is concerned. And you can say, so far as their mental abilities are concerned, you will find that some students are there high achieving students, some are mediocre students, and some are below average students. Okay, so far as their intelligence is concerned, achievement is concerned, and aptitude and other areas of mental ability is concerned, in different attributes and different variables, mental variables, you will find that they are not exactly homogeneous. Okay, their interest is different, their attitude is different. Okay, their achievement and their personality, their creativity. So if you use certain tests to find out the nature of variations, you will find that really they are not a homogeneous group, rather they are a heterogeneous group. Then further we can say, so far as their socio-economic status is concerned, socio-economic condition is concerned, we can say that they are also not homogeneous. You will find that a group of students, they are from you can say well-to-do family, they are from elite class, and you will get a group of students in your class to whom you are teaching, they are from mediocre family. Or you will also find certain students, they are from the low socio-economic group family. So friends, here also, the nature of your class is also not homogeneous, rather you can say it is heterogeneous, because you are getting students from different socio-economic background, and you are dealing all the students in a classroom, because we consider that all our schools are inclusive school. We provide inclusive instruction. Okay, so the instruction is for all. But so far as the conditions are concerned, the nature of the student, their the facilities that they are not getting equal facilities. In school, we are saying that we are providing equal facilities so far as their home and other environmental situation is concerned, their ability is concerned, their economic standard is concerned. So you will find that they are different. Then you can say you will find a group of students, they are coming from a very you can say well educated family. If you'll take a data, if you'll take information about their family, you will find that the parents and the members of the students family are highly educated, and a group of students, you will also find that their parents are not highly educated, and you will also find a group of students and their parents are not well educated also. So that's why, but as a teacher, you are dealing all the students, all the groups of the students. Then their language background is also different. Many a times, especially in the metro cities, you'll find that the students, they are coming from different language background. Okay, so school language and home language is different, but as a teacher, you are dealing to them, they are coming from a multiple language background, a multi-language background. Okay, but in school, you are teaching them in one language. Okay, so here also you are facing certain difficulties. And psychological trait, already I have said that so far as their attributes and their abilities are concerned, they are different. So friends, now we can say that the students who seems as if they are homogeneous, but really they are not homogeneous, they are really a heterogeneous group. So it is a very difficult task for the teacher, for the part of a teacher, to deal a homogeneous group of students, and to provide you can say equal instruction, and to maintain equity and equality to a heterogeneous group of students. But when we are dealing a heterogeneous group, so there is the possibility of you can say getting variations in their result, in their understanding. Okay, so what treatment you are giving, what instruction you are giving, what content you are teaching, it is not necessarily that all are learning in the same rate, all are learning in the same standard. Okay, so that's why in their performance, in their understanding, okay, you will find there is the gap, there is a variation. So friends, it starts from the, you can say, the nature of the class, and now we will discuss about the concept of learning gap. What is the learning gap? So let us try to understand. You can say those have not achieved the minimum learning competency which is required, the minimum learning competencies. Okay, let in class 8th, in class 9th, in class 10th, even if in the elementary classes also, in class 6th, 7th, 8th, you will find that there is certain learning competencies. That means in mathematics, what competencies the learners, the students, they're supposed to achieve in standard 6th, in standard 7th, and in standard 8th, whether they have achieved that competencies. Okay, so if they are not achieving that competencies, then you can say that there is a learning gap. Then further we can say that if specific instructional objectives are not achieved, so as a teacher, what you are doing before teaching a topic, so what you are doing, you are framing certain, you are stating certain instructional objectives. So here by taking the class during the process of teaching and learning, you are trying to achieve those instructional objectives. Okay, so if the instructional objectives are not achieved, then you can say that there is certain learning gaps. I mean, the students, they have not achieved the mastery, or they have not attended that level of understanding. So that's why instructional objectives are not achieved. Then again, you can say that those have not reached at a minimum level of learning meant for a particular class. I have already said that minimum level of learning of mathematics in a particular class, minimum level of learning of science in a particular class, minimum level of learning of language in a particular class. So if they have not achieved the minimum, or not reached at that minimum level of learning, then you can say that there is a learning gap. Then again, you can say that those have not achieved the descriptive learning indicators. You see, descriptive learning indicators means this is not only assess the students' abilities in terms of marks and grades. Rather, so you have to describe their abilities. Means in what they are able to do and what they are not able to do. Okay, so when you will describe the things in mathematics, what are the different things they are able to do and what are the different things they are not able to do. In language also, what are the different things they are able to do and what are the different skills they are not able to do. So when we will express it in descriptive indicators, then we can say that if it is achieved, then it's okay. If it is not achieved, then you can say there is a learning gap. Then further we can say that those have earned a grade below average or lower than that. Even if let you have fixed a grade, you have fixed a grade or fixed a percentage. Let the average percentage is 50 percentage. So you can say that by using certain techniques, certain assessment tool, if maybe observation or maybe any other tool, if the students are not achieving the minimum level of learning or the average grade or the average percentage, that is 50 percentage, then you can say that there is certain learning gaps. Okay, so the group of students those have not reached at that level, they are having certain learning gaps. So friends, here we have tried to discuss the concept of a learning gap. Then after discussing the learning gap, after knowing the learning gaps, then let us try to understand what are the different factors that are responsible for learning gaps. Okay, what are the different factors? So friends, I can say that first factor, it may be the curriculum and course materials. Okay, the curriculum that we have developed, let we have developed for elementary class, for class 6th, for class 7th, for class 8th or 9th, whether the content that we have taken for the class in the curriculum, whether it is up to that level of the students. Okay, so that's why we have to do a type of content analysis of the curriculum. Okay, so after analyzing the content, we can say that whether it is as per their mental level or not, or it is let in class 7th curriculum is not like class 7th curriculum, it is like class 8th curriculum. So that's why curriculum and courses of study, that may be one of the factor. And second factor, we can say that we have the curriculum, then curriculum transaction. So here when we talk about the curriculum transaction, then here we are discussing about the ability of the teacher and our system. So what system we follow to transact curriculum from teacher to the students, what methods we follow, what techniques we follow, how we teach, and how we plan a unit, how we plan, you can say our monthly plan, our weekly plan, our yearly plan, how we manage our teaching and learning, and what supports we are providing to our students, to the learners. Okay, whether you are giving any material, any resources, and how we are engaging students in the process of teaching and learning. So friends, the pedagogy as well as the media that we are using, whether only face-to-face classroom teaching you are doing, at the same time you are also using any other online and other medias. So other media. So here curriculum transaction is also one of the factor. And third factor, we can say abilities of the students. I have already said that the students' abilities, you will not find that the similar abilities of students are there in your class. You will find that so far as their abilities, attributes are concerned, you will find a very diverse group. They are different among each other. Then socio-cultural and educational standard of the family. Already you have discussed that the students are coming from different socio-economic background and from different educational background also. You will find that the students to whom you are teaching, they are coming from different educational background. So far as their parents' education is concerned, so far as education of other members are concerned, okay, you will find that all are not similar in nature. Then the learning supports and resources that they are getting from the home, that is also another factor, and from school, that is also another factor. So friends, these are the certain factors that determine, you can say, the learning gaps of the students. Then how to identify? After discussing the theoretical parts, then how to identify these learning gaps? What techniques you have to follow to diagnose, to know the learning gaps? So for that, you have to do a diagnostic testing. Okay. So by diagnostic testing, what you can do, you can find out, the specific learning difficulties. All the students, they may not have similar types of difficulties. So to identify the difficulties, you have to do a diagnostic testing. Okay, so by doing the diagnostic testing, you may find out that causes underlying with curriculum and course material. Because as curriculum and course material is one of the factors, so when you conduct a diagnostic test, you take the you can say you interact with the students, you interact with the teachers, you interact with the parents, the peer groups, okay, and the group, their friend circle to whom the student is coming contact with, and you can say you can also do a physical verification about their copies, whatever assignment as a teacher you are giving, whether they are doing it or not. Okay, so by doing a diagnostic testing, you can find out what are the causes. Okay, then you can also, by doing the diagnostic testing, you can also find out whether the difficulties are lying with the pedagogy. As a teacher, you are teaching to the students, and many a time what happened, as a teacher you are not using the suitable pedagogy, you are not using the perfect pedagogy. Okay, so that may be the cause. So by doing the diagnostic test, you can also find out whether there are any difficulty to use the pedagogy, or whether any problem that is lying with the peer group and the family, whether they are not getting equal treatment in the family, whether they are not getting facilities in the family, or whether the homework and other activities that you are giving to the students, whether they are practicing it in their home or not. Okay, so you can also make family member as a subject, teachers as the subject, student themselves are also the subject. Okay, and you can say you can also do certain psychological test also to know their abilities. Okay, their intelligence, their aptitude, and their interest, their attitude towards the teacher, their attitude towards the curriculum, their attitude towards the school. Okay, that also being a factor. So, friends, we can say by doing the diagnostic test, then we can find out that we can identify the nature of learning gaps and what are the different types of the learning gaps. Okay, whether it is psychological in nature, whether it is personal in nature, whether it is related to achievement, whether it is related to intelligence of the students, or whether it is related to any other factor, family related factor, society related factor, that you can find out. So, friend, after knowing the nature of the learning gap, then next your next work is to to facilitate the learners, and you have to bridge the learning gaps. Okay, the gap that you have identified, you have to bridge that gap. So, friends, what techniques as a teacher, what technique you have to follow for bridging the learning gaps? Try to understand. First of all, to provide remedial instruction as per their learning difficulties. Let you observe that in a particular subject, like in English literature, a group of students are not performing well. Okay, so there is difficulties related to understanding. Okay, they are not able to understand. Then what you will do? So as a teacher, or the school should facilitate it, and as a teacher, you should take certain remedial classes. Okay, you have to give certain remedial instruction to the students, you have to pay certain extra class. Many a school you will find that they started a zero class. So zero class means, so that is meant for that group of students with whom certain learning difficulties are there, may be related to any subject. Okay, so that's why the teacher will deal, first of all identify and then deal to those group of students for you can say bringing them to a level, to the average level. Then second, we can say to implement individualized education program, IEP, individualized education program. So what you can do, as you have conducted a diagnostic test and already you know the factors, know the causes, the individual causes, you can say. So after knowing the individual causes, then your next work is to provide certain individualized education program to them. You have to develop certain program to them, so far as their nature of difficulties are concerned. So to student X, how you will deal, to student Y, how you will deal, because their problem is not, you will find certain problem is related to their family, you will find certain group of students the problem is related to their friend circle. So if it is related to the family, then definitely you should talk with their parents, their family members. Okay, and you have to you have to convince to their family members about their family related problem. And if it is related to their studies, related to understanding the subject, understanding the content, then you have to give the remedial instruction. And if it is related to their personal problem, psychological problem, okay, many a time it happens, so then you can also employ certain counselor, you can say certain psychologist. So many a time you can suggest to visit psychologist also if the nature of problem is related to one psychological difficulties. Then the other techniques that you can do to develop peer and group learning environment. So you can develop a type of peer and group learning environment. You can engage the students with their peers and you can engage the students with their groups. You see, when they are studying with the peers and studying in a group, they develop a type of competitive spirit. They develop a type of, you can say, closeness. So in whatever they will study, they can better study in a group. So that's why you can engage them in group activities. Then we can say to monitor regular activities of the identified students. So what you will do, already you have identified the group, and as per the identified groups and as per the individual nature of the difficulties, you have prepared certain plan and you are providing certain instruction to them, certain programs to them, okay, to lead them at, you can say, minimum, to reach them at the minimum level or minimum learning level, you can say. So that's why what you will do, you can regularly monitor the activities, monitor the plan that you have planned, whether it is going on properly or not. Then to maintain regular interaction with the parents. So you see, when as a teacher, as a school administrator, if you maintain regular meeting, regular interaction with the parents, then the students will, you'll find that the students will get they are getting cautious and they are getting alert in their activities. If they are doing certain wrong things, certain unacceptable things, you will find that they are modifying themselves, because you are aligned and you are a regular contact with the teacher. So that's why such type of things you can do. Then you can say to provide alternative learning opportunities to that group of students by using different methods and techniques. If you find that something is related to with your teaching behavior, okay, let the methods that you are using or the techniques that you are using or the style of teaching that you follow, few students are not understanding it, and that is the cause of getting the learning gap of the students. So what you can do, you can experiment, you can use, you can implement, you can practice certain new techniques, certain new methods, certain innovative methods to teach the students and to motivate, to inspire the students. After all, I will say that motivating the students, inspiring the students, knowing the strong point of the students is also another factors to bringing the students in at a level. So that's why bridging the learning gap, after identifying the learning gaps, you have to use varieties of techniques to bridge that learning gap. Only identifying the learning gap is not enough. Then after identifying the learning gap, you can do certain action research, and by doing certain action research, you can find out certain factors, certain you can say the causes, you can identify the causes. Then as per the you can say the nature of the causes, nature of the difficulties, so you have to give remediation, and the remediation may be varies students to student, person to persons, because their nature of difficulties are different. So friends, today we discuss about the bridging learning gap. Okay, so after identifying the learning gaps, you can use varieties of techniques to bridge the learning gaps. So as a teacher, you might be using such things, and at the same time, the time that you are giving in your school for teaching the students and doing other activities, with your regular activities, you can also, being a dedicated teacher, you can also give certain more time to the students, so far as that the identified group or the below average group they may get benefit of it, and you will also feel happy for for such type of your activities. So friends, in our next session we'll discuss certain other theme of education and pedagogy and educational research. Thank you.